If there's one thing Five Nights at Freddy's is known for, it's the confusing timeline. Although over the past 10 years, the community has come to an almost complete understanding of the series' timeline. Notice how I said almost? That's because there is one game in this franchise that the community still hasn't come to a complete consensus on when it takes place. Well, relative to its place in the narrative. Besides the year FNAF 2, almost every game's year is debated, but who gives a shit about that? That game, of course, being Sister Location.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, there has been like a back and forth whether if this game came out like if like Sister Location came out before FNAF 2 or 1. But I digress.
Location, that means on the title. The only thing we really know about this game's timeline is that it's sometime before FNAF 6. Other than that, it's basically all over the place. Some people argue it's before FNAF 2, some people argue it's after FNAF 3, so that's a pretty small range of time it can happen.
Personally, I think Sister Location happened before 2. That's just me. Everyone has their own, opinion. They have their own, unique thought to it. But for me, it has always been since FNAF 2. Like, in my head, story-wise, it just makes complete sense.
I've made a video going over this game's confusing timeline before, but to be honest, it kinda sucks, and I want to redo it, and I also got called out on Twitter for it, so yeah. First things first, let's talk about how Sister Location is not before FNAF 2 or 1, which I'm pretty sure is the community consensus outside like the theorizing section of the community. The evidence for this is that—
See? He thinks it's not before 1 or 2. I'm gonna let him explain, because it's only right to listen to someone else's theory, their own synopsis, because in reality sometimes it really do make sense, like how someone else's how they explain their theory on the storyline. And I would never, for me personally, I would never disagree with what you're thinking. I would never agree with that, but whatever makes sense makes sense, and I'm up for anyone's theory. So please let me know in your comments what you think about Sister Location. Also, I would love to see anything that you have to say about Sister's Location, because that's personally my favorite FNAF. When Sister Location came out, whoo!
That Fritz Smith, who is speculated to be Michael Afton, gets fired for odor. The odor could be from Mike being a rotting corpse. There's also the hand unit saying that Circus Baby's Entertainment Rentals opened after the closure of a Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, but he never said which one. So he could be talking about the first Freddy's opened before FNAF 2. Sister Location being before FNAF 2 also gives Michael a motivation for working at FNAF 1 and 2. He's looking for his father. There's also the logbook.
Right. And that's why, because for me, I go off common sense. Now, we know we got the books, we got the game, and we got Scott Cawthon himself. But everything from the book is not canon. So you really have to go off your senses, and you have to go off what you're being told from the game. And when Five Nights at Freddy's 2 came out, and the phone guy was talking about the odor and how the animatronics had the odor on them also, you can put 2 and 2 together, and you can already know that some certain things were happening. And then we got the arcade games during 2, and how we was shown that the purple guy was, decapitating the animal parts, and so it's I'm thinking in my head that this is ringing a bell. When Sister Location came out, it was they were talking about an odor, how this and that. But in Five Nights at Freddy's 2, they were talking about odor. So I was putting 2 to 2 together. So I don't know. I'm gonna let them keep talking though, because it just makes sense. It just makes sense. I don't know though. I don't know.
Which may be during FNAF 1. In this book, Mike references Sister Location, so obviously Sister Location would have already had to happen. So with all that out of the way,
if every time you see an ad, you just wanna Hi-ya! You need to download Pi. It's a free Chrome extension that blocks ads.
Way, here's why Sister Location being before FNAF 2 is most likely incorrect. Looking at the evidence first, as for the odor, not only does this rely on the assumption that Mike is Fritz, which is not confirmed and I disagree with, the odor can also be explained in other ways rather than him being a rotten corpse. Ralph says that the animatronics in FNAF 2 smell awful. Alright, Ralph doesn't outright say it, but like, come on, that's obviously what he's implying when he says, and the smell, ugh. Like he's saying the smell is why the wizards weren't reused. Fritz tampered with and had direct contact with those animatronics. Because of that, Fritz smells bad. It's pretty straightforward, I think. Same thing that probably happened with Mike in FNAF 1. He tampered with the animatronics that, as Ralph said, haven't had a bath, so Mike smells bad. Furthermore, in Help Wanted, Tape Girl says that when companies want to fire someone, they'll find little things to build up a case. So maybe that's what Fazbear Entertainment was doing with Mike and Fritz. They were using odor as a little thing to fire them because, well, they probably saw something they weren't supposed to see. In Fritz's case, probably the DCI's bodies, and in Mike's case, probably Ralph's body or something, I don't know. So yeah, the odor doesn't really point towards Mike being a walking corpse at the time. Hand Unit's line is just telling us when the rental service started, not when the game takes place. As for Sister Location being before FNAF 1 giving Mike a motive, yeah, it does, but there's multiple different motivations Mike could have for working at the FNAF 1 location. He was working under William's orders, he just needed a job and kept coming back because of his brother, he was investigating Freddy's, 0 Point Field, on and on and on. Sister Location doesn't need to happen before FNAF 1 to give Mike a motivation is what I'm saying. Also, and this is not the strongest argument, but Sister Location being before FNAF 1 means William is trapped in the safe room during Mike's shift. If that's true, Mike would have found William. There's a part in the Fazbear's Fright books where the narrator says William Afton has an unmistakable energy, so Mike would have found William, and yeah, the games would have ended pretty early. Not the best argument since obviously it wasn't planned out back then, but still thought I should bring it up just because this line is really funny. As for the logbook, in the Pizzaplex, who knows? I really need to make that logbook video. But there's something else that, in my opinion, proves Sister Location is after FNAF 1. Before I get into the definitive reasons Sister Location is after FNAF 1, I have to ask you guys to subscribe. I want to hit 2,000.
Yes, guys, subscribe to his channel. Subscribe. This guy, I've been watching this guy for a bit now. He does a good theory. But I still think FNAF Sister Location happened. I'm gonna say in between FNAF 1 and 2, because this all happened before 6 and 5 and 4 and 3. Literally.
1,500 subscribers before the end of April, and subscribing would be a massive help. So definitely subscribe.
Oh, and guys, we are literally getting a Five Nights at Freddy's Sister Location book. I want to say this year. I think it's this year towards past October.
Subscribe to help me out. But now let's talk about the real reason Sister Location has to be after FNAF 1. The Follow Me minigames. There are minigames that are played between the nights of FNAF 3. They depict William Afton dismantling the main 4 animatronics before being attacked by the spirits within the shells and getting spring-locked. The reason I bring these up is because it's heavily implied, borderline confirmed, that the original missing children are within the Funtime animatronics. I won't go into too much detail about that today. There are multiple videos going over it that you can watch after this one. Anyways, for this to be true, William must have gotten the MCI's remnant from the classics. And the only point we know of that this can happen is Follow Me, where he destroys the animatronics. We know that William was missing by the time of Mike's speech, which likely takes place a little bit after Ennard leaves his body. He's saying he's going to come find William, which implies William is missing. This lines up with Follow Me, since William would be missing in the safe room. So that means Follow Me is before Sister Location. So when does Follow Me take place? Before or after FNAF 1? The evidence for it being before FNAF 1 is the buttons on Freddy and Bonnie. They lack these buttons in FNAF 1, but their withered counterparts have the buttons. So that must mean these are the unwithered animatronics before FNAF 1, right? Furthermore, we already see that some part of the children's souls are at Freddy's during the final Follow Me mini.
Right, and that goes back to where I was saying, when you play Five Nights at Freddy's 2, you will get to a point where you start playing the arcade game, and if you follow along what they're doing and telling you and showing you, it all connects to Sister Location. That's why I'm saying this happened in between Five Nights at Freddy's and Five Nights at Freddy's 2. Because William Afton, he already had beef with Henry. He had a lot of beef. He's already a psychopath. So when you put 2 and 2 together, he wanted to do things in his way. So he found a way to do it by recreating a stolen project, but we don't know if he stole it. But obviously, if you put it together, he did. But he went back to his house and he made an underground, some type of like a facility, and he made the Funtime animatronics. So that's why, and then he needed some substance to put inside of those animatronics so they can become to life. So he can inject it into them, basically. And that's where we're at right now. That's where we're looking at. So if you put it together, this happened in between those two games. But I digress. Let me know, guys. I'm not. I'm already onto something, but it just makes so much. It logically makes sense, if you know what I mean.
Game, which should be after their endos are taken, meaning some part of their souls are attached to the shells. So theoretically, if the animatronics were rebuilt, the children could still possess them. On their own, these are fair arguments, but Follow Me is almost definitely after FNAF 1, and here's why. As for the buttons, I think we can safely say these aren't a major timeline hint. Why? Because in the final Follow Me minigame, we see William spring Bonnie's suit without a button. However, in-game, Springtrap has a button. This shows to us that the buttons don't really matter. If Scott cared enough to add them to Freddy and Bonnie, why wouldn't he add them to Spring Bonnie? Not convinced? Take a look at FNAF 2. In the Save the minigame, the player takes control of Withered Freddy. The Freddy that has the button, but look at his design. No button. It's just not there. This means the minigame sprites aren't the most accurate things ever. And Scott probably just added the buttons because it looked better with them than without them. Also, the location Follow Me is very clearly abandoned. There are boards on the wall and the place is leaking. But none of this is as concrete as the thing that proves Follow Me is after FNAF 1. It's FNAF 3 itself. In FNAF 3, one of those prominent features is the mascot heads that can be seen throughout the location. Notice how they are all torn up and lacking their endos, just like how they are after Follow Me. The Steam description also points out that only the empty shells are found, which means that even when FNAF 3 released, William was taking the endos in Follow Me. For Follow Me to be before FNAF 1, the animatronics would have to be rebuilt, then dismantled again, just like they were in Follow Me. That seems overly convoluted and isn't really implied anywhere. So if Follow Me is after FNAF 1, and Sister Location is after Follow Me, or at least the first 4 minigames, Sister Location is after FNAF 1. So we've narrowed down when Sister Location can happen a little bit, but can we narrow it down even further? We sure can.
Right. Now, earlier when I said that the books are sometimes not canon to the game, here's one thing that is canon. Last year when I was reading the circus book, in there was some synopsis that the circus, I forgot what it was called. I think it was, I forgot what the title of the circus was called, but there was a circus that was like Sister Location, that was referenced like Sister Location, and that happened. I want to say Afton have that happening at the same time that he was building Sister Location in his home. So that happened at the same time. So what he's saying is applying to what I'm trying to tell you guys, that this happened in between 1 and 2. Now, the book, if you read that book, that is canon. That is canon.
Try. I am 100% confident Sister Location is after FNAF 1, but is it before or after FNAF 3? Well, this is where things get pretty complicated.
Right,
the casting call from...
And that's what I'm saying. Because when he was working on it, it wasn't completed yet. It wasn't full on just like, I'm done with this, now I can move on to something else. It wasn't like that. He wasn't finished working on the underground bunker yet. I'm gonna call it the underground bunker. Yeah, he wasn't done yet. So that's why there's a big confusion and a lot of conflict when it comes to this storyline, because when it comes to the point of Sister Location, because the storyline kind of doesn't make sense, but it does. You know what I mean? So that's why I say it happened in between 1 and 2. Like, it didn't just happen quick. Like, you gotta, like, imagine that it could have happened in this month, and then months later, maybe a year, it finished. You know what I mean? So, like you really gotta, like, estimate and theorize in your head how long could had this had taken. You know what I mean? So that's why it's important. That's why that's why Matt Passes is really important to read the books thoroughly, and you gotta, like, maybe reread it and, like, come up with your own thoughts so it can make more sense, because sister location timeline, it kind of, it's a lot to it. It really is.
Michael Afton says that Mike is between the ages of 18 and 35, which should mean that at the latest, sister location can be in the early to mid 2000s. However, Henry is listed as being middle-aged in FNAF 6.
And that's what I'm saying. The circus happened, and it was being built at the same time. So it took a long time for it to finish.
And he should be in his 70s, not exactly middle-aged. So it seems that the casting calls are not a reliable source. However, PJ Haywood did say Michael was a younger character than William. The reason this is important is because, assuming FNAF 3 is in 2023, hell, it even makes sense even if it's in 2015, Michael would be as old, maybe even older than, William in the opening cutscene.
She can dance. She can sing. She's equipped with a built-in helium tank for inflating balloons right at her fingertips. She can take song requests. She can even dispense ice cream. Father, it's me, Michael. I did it. I found it. It was right where you said it would be.
I consider
Sorry to ruin your groove. Isn't that the worst? What if I told you that there was a way for you to skip ads like this forever? This is Pi, and if it sounds familiar to you, it's probably because you've seen their ads.
PJ Haywood to be a more reliable source, as he said Scott is very direct with what he wants. If you want Mike to sound younger than William, Mike is younger than William. However, there are other important aspects to consider here, one of which being that Sister Location was originally going to be the final game, and we don't know if this includes a custom-made update or not, so let's just assume Scott's talking about only the main game. I feel like if Sister Location was the final game, it would have to be before FNAF 3, because of the missing children being in the Fun Times. We don't know for sure if the so-called Fun Times MCI was always Scott's original intention, but since some people were able to figure it out before FNAF 6 release, and I see no reason for Scott to retcon it into being the case, we can assume it was always the intention. We also know that Sister Location was made in response to people not really understanding FNAF 4's story.
The ones, yeah, there were mysteries. 4 ended up just...
Yo, I remember this. This happened so long ago, but I remember this. When this game came out, the story wasn't, like, easy to follow along with. And even I can say that. Because I was like, this is like, I'm not going to say this was like peak FNAF, but like, the lore was like real. Like, it was like to a point where that's all I was thinking about was the lore of this game. I was following along with this game for so much. I was watching Matt Pat. I was watching 8-Bit Ryan. I was watching so many theories about this specific game. This FNAF right here that we're about to be listening to. And I couldn't follow along with it because it was like we were hit with this game not knowing where the story was going because we didn't know too much about it. So it's like, man. And then, like, he said that this was going to be their last game at that time also. But in my heart, I knew it wasn't true. And then, like, later on, we got hit with a trailer. I think, what was it, on Steamwell? Where we seen, I think Scott had posted some type of letter. And every so often, he would post another letter, and another letter, and another letter. And then we got hit with a trailer, and it was Sister Location. And man, that gave lots of people chills. Lots of people chills. Because that game, FNAF Location, man, that is my favorite FNAF. That took a lot of theorizing, of, man, I remember that. I remember those days, man. It really feels so long ago when that game came out. Because it was. But Five Nights at Freddy's 4, it was confusing. It really was. We didn't know where these animal electronics came from. We didn't know if they were some type of if they were built from someone else, if that was the crying child, and it wasn't. The whole time it was Michael. Like, the whole time we was thinking that this is the crying child experiencing some type of um dramatic dream or something, but it wasn't. It was literally Michael experiencing some type of mental illusions in his head, thinking, and someone was playing with him also. It was basically someone messing with Michael, pushing like a mannequin, like with some wheels underneath it, but like a scary mask of finance of Fazbear, in the other animal electronics also, and at each door they were messing with him. But yeah, this game, well, now we know that, but this game, it was like very hard to understand where the story was going, and a lot of people were complaining about that. Me, I wasn't complaining. I was just more so trying to understand what's going on, because the game was good. It was good. It's just the story, I was confused about it a little, but I wasn't complaining about it. I just wanted to know what's going on because I was happy. I was happy and scared. But yeah.
Too mysterious to the point where you really couldn't, there was no real way to figure out what was going on.
Right.
You left people unsatisfied. And like I said, with jumping from 3 to 4, I knew that I had to go in and straighten that out. It's like, people aren't really happy with this. I need to make another game. I need to kind of ground this again, not necessarily in reality, but I need to ground it in kind of storytelling.
And most of the game is kind of explaining the FNAF 4 story. Now, I made a
Right, and Scott definitely, I'm telling you guys, Scott definitely did exactly what he said he was gonna do in the games. Literally, sister location came out, he clarified every single thing. Every single thing. We found out in the boss battle, we found out that this stuff was happening above us, and there was some type of disc, and there was some type of gas leak that was illusioning our mind at that time. And we found out it was Michael. That was the one who we were playing as. We was thinking that we were in some type of nurse house. Someone was taking care of the crying child, and this and that. No, the whole time we were playing as Michael. Okay? The whole time. I remember when I was a kid, I was thinking we were playing as the crying child the whole time, bro. No one can tell me that y'all was not thinking we were playing as a crying child the whole time. The whole entire time. And I kind of feel like that's why Scott had to like clarify through a game of what the hell is going on in the story, because that mind blown everyone. I'm telling you, hands down, that blew a lot of people's minds, that we were literally below sister location. We were below sister location. Can y'all believe that? Are you serious? We were below sister location the whole entire time? That still blows my mind to this day. To this day. I remember I was watching I was watching MatPat. I was watching him get to the boss battle where he had to crawl through Belora's her room, and he had to go all the way left. I remember that. He got to that battle, and I seen that room. We seen the map layout, and then we started seeing more things. Man.
Video on what I
What
think
a
FNAF
game
4's
that
original
was.
story was, and the MCI were actually an important part of the story that no one really
Also,
understood.
this game right here, this game happened before everything. This game literally happened before everything happened. Not before Mimic, but right after Mimic. And I can't wait for that Five Nights at Freddy's come out. June, I will be making gameplay for that game, and I will be theorizing myself on this game. If you guys want to see something like that, please let me know in the comments. Put a F and put I love FNAF in the comments below if you guys want to see me do that and theorize on that game.
So bringing them back would be something Scott would do to explain the role in the story. I think Ennard is supposed to represent the bite victim being put back together, the MCI all coming together to form one entity, with Elizabeth there too. If you want more information on that, make sure to watch my other video. This is important because if Sister Location was after FNAF 3, the series would end with the missing children not moving on. They would just be in Mike's body forever. This is not only an unsatisfying ending, but I'm not sure if Scott would want to end the story without the children moving on. However, since Elizabeth never moves on with Sister Location being the original ending, I guess I could see it. But if Sister Location is after FNAF 3, we have to ask why Michael waited so many years to go and help his sister. We have no reason to think Mike would wait at all to go put Elizabeth back together. Well, when Sister Location originally came out, now with the new story, we do have some new stuff like the theory of Vanessa being an Afton, which I do believe could possibly explain Mike waiting. He would have to take care of her. But I'm talking about before security breach and all that came out. When it originally came out, why would he wait? Now, Mike did say in his speech that he found something, which means William left him something to look for, but he also says it's right where William said it would be. So if he had to look, he probably wouldn't have to look very far. Anyways, the reason I bring this all up is because it doesn't make much sense for Mike to wait to help Elizabeth, so he probably didn't. Some people say William could have left a note or a voice recording from Mike in case of his death and Follow Me, and Mike took a while to find that, but that's a headcanon. Another thing
Let me show you how to block this ad. First, you're gonna click on this video, then you're gonna download Pi. It's an ad blocker that's
people use to say Sister Location is during or after FNAF 3 is that during Mike's speech, we see the aftermath of the FNAF 3 fire, so the speech could be happening during the visuals of the cutscene. And while that could be true, it doesn't mean Sister Location is during or after FNAF 3 because, well, it's possible there's a gap between Ennard leaving Mike's body and the speech, since Mike says he's living in shadows. Also, the audio and the visuals might just not line up. So Sister Location is probably not during or after FNAF 3 due to Mike being said to be a younger character than William, and it not making much sense for Mike to wait. The only way it really works is if Mike is the FNAF 3 guard and William asked him during or after the fire, but I very much doubt that, since at that point they would have both tried to kill each other. So Sister Location is after FNAF 1, but before FNAF 3, and this is the common consensus in the theorizing section of the community. But can we narrow it down to a year? No, but we can get a time frame. The Fazbear's Fright story You're the Band takes place in 2015. However, Mike is in the story, and noticeably he is not a purple zombie. He is said to look like he's in his 20s, but this is honestly a minor thing as age has never really mattered in this franchise. For example, Charlie is said to be 17 in the Silver Eyes, but in the fourth closet is revealed she was born in 1980. The Silver Eyes takes place in 1995. Meaning she would be 15. There's also Edwin's whole age thing in Tales, and a lot of examples in Fazbear's Fright. So clearly age is not something Scott puts much thought into. What's important is that Mike and the protagonist, Sylvia, visit Freddy's and the animatronics are intact and can move, implying that Follow Me and Sister Location haven't happened yet. However, it should be noted this was a cut story, and it was just released in a bonus book that you can't even buy by itself, you have to buy it with a book set. And while I'm sure it wasn't written with the intention to be scrapped, what's canon is dubious, so it can really only be used as supporting evidence if anything. But if this is still canon, Sister Location is sometime after 2015. Preferably it would be in 2015, so it can be 30 years after Elizabeth's death, and we do know Scott likes his 30-year anniversaries. If you think Elizabeth dies in 1987 or after, then those years work just as well, as long as it's before 2023, depending on your timeline when FNAF 3 takes place. However, like I said, the story was scrapped. There is something else we can use to pin down a year for Sister Location, or rather someone, Vanessa. Now what I'm going to say is probably controversial here on YouTube, but I do believe Vanessa is an Afton, William's daughter to be exact, not Mike's. I'm not going over all the evidence for the theory today, but I do plan on making a video about it in the future, so be on the lookout for that. However, let's just assume Vanessa is an Afton for the sake of the rest of this video. Vanessa being an Afton can definitely help us pin down the year's sister location, or at least a range of time it can happen. Vanessa is said to be 23 during FNAF AR. Now we don't know the gap between FNAF AR and Security Breach, but I'm pretty sure they happen very close together, so we'll see Vanessa is also 23 there. And I know what you're thinking, Vanessa's age was revealed in unreleased emails. Can we really use these? And I'd say probably. Vanessa's last name was revealed to start with A in the emails as well, and on her official Game Jolt page it also starts with an A, meaning the info here is probably accurate. I'm not entirely sure if Vanessa is 23 though, since her email is Nest97. Usually when there are two numbers like that at the end of a year.
So Vanessa. My thoughts on Vanessa, I'm not going to go too deep with this because I'm going to put this in my next video, but Vanessa, when I first seen her in Security Breach, I already knew off bat that she was really an important character. And she has green eyes. Now, who else do we know in FNAF lore has green eyes? Come on now. We all know who has green eyes and who daughter she is.
Username is the year the user was born, which in this case would be 1997, and it seemed like the emails were written as if they were in 2020, which is when they were written in the real world. In the FNAF AR emails, they have a date of 2019 in the Ultimate Guide, and what's interesting is that they didn't remove this, so it could actually point towards special delivery being in 2019, although I've heard this is actually the date that they were written IRL, but I haven't actually seen anyone explain why that is, so if someone could explain that in the comments, let me know. It seems more just like an assumption. Anyway, that either means FNAF AR is in 2020, or they were just written like they were written in the current year, but the actual events happen later in the timeline. Anyways, it's possible whoever wrote the emails thought Vanessa was 23 since she was born in 1997, but she was actually much older. But then again, you could argue it says she was born in 1997 because Vanessa is 23, and the emails were written as if they were in 2020. So I'm not sure. Let's just assume she is 23 though. If she is, we can use it to help us get a time frame of when sister location takes place. If Security Breach is in 2029, she would be born in 2006, and if it's in 2035, she would be born in 2012. We don't know how old she was during the court case mentioned in the therapy tapes, and a child of any age can be a witness in a court hearing, but let's just say she's 5. So that means at the earliest, sister location is in 2011, if Security Breach is in 2029, in 2017 if it's in 2035. And if FNAF AR really is in 2020, then 2022 is the earliest it can take place. Now I don't know if I'm onto anything here or if I'm on something, but since I do think Vanessa is an Afton, I will say that I do think sister location is in the 2010s or at least sometime after FNAF 1. However, we aren't done yet. There's another game here to consider, FNAF 4's gameplay. Does sister location take place before or after FNAF 4's gameplay? We know that FNAF 4's gameplay has to be at least after FNAF 1 because you can hear Ralph's phone call from night 1 of FNAF 1. The gameplay is also very similar to FNAF 1. So is sister location before or after this gameplay? Well, I actually think it's sometime before. First of all, let's speak about the narrative. The main antagonist of this game is Nightmare, and in UCN, Nightmare says, he is saying this to William, which most likely means that Nightmare represents William's evil in some way. That means if sister location is after FNAF 4's gameplay, Michael defeated the physical manifestation of his father's evil and then a few years later went and helped his father out. That's silly. It makes much more sense for Michael to defeat his father's evil after he's already on his quest to find and most likely kill his dad. Hell, you could even say that him defeating Nightmare is when Spyros can start looking for William since he has proven to himself he can defeat him. For some actual evidence, we have Nightmare Fredbear's stomach mouth. Since Nightmare Fredbear has only ever appeared in Mike's dreams, not showing up in Nidophobia, I think it's possible that Nightmare Fredbear is the physical manifestation of Mike's guilt at failing to protect his siblings. He is Fredbear for obvious reasons, and he has the stomach mouth because of Elizabeth's death. This would even explain why Nightmare takes his form. It's like William would use Michael's guilt against him, maybe. I don't know. I literally just thought of that while I was reading this out. This would most likely indicate sister location is before FNAF 4, since we have no reason to assume Mike knows how Elizabeth dies prior to sister location. And if you're wondering how Mike knows how she died, on night 3, Mike can go to the gallery and listen to Baby describe Elizabeth's death. But none of this is as concrete as the logbook, which shows us that Mike has already gone through the events of sister location, but Nightmare Fredbear is drawn under a section about recent dreams, meaning Mike has already gone through sister location while having the FNAF 4 nightmares. So sister location is after FNAF 1 in the 2010s, but before FNAF 4 and 3. Honestly, I think sister location will probably get a date soon, with a new book called Secret Artifacts, which is said to have some.
Never mind, it was next year, released March 3rd, 2026. So this book is going to be literally about sister location. Literally. We're going to be confirmed about a lot of things. Okay, I cannot wait for this book to come out so this can destroy the conflict that everyone has about sister location. This is going to be amazing.
some things from Circus Baby's entertainment and rentals. It's possible we'll get something from Sister Location's time with a date on it. To be honest, I don't really like Sister Location being in the 2010s. I think the 90s or 2000s fit better. Also, you guys might have noticed I didn't mention the story Dataphobia in this video, and that's because I'm not sure if it's before or after Sister Location, and also because I knew people would argue it's not canon and I didn't want to deal with that. I think you can make a compelling argument for it being before or after. Oh, and I have a mini theory I want to share with you guys that is related to all this, but I didn't know how to fit it in with the rest of the video. My theory goes that Follow Me 1 to 4 happened before Sister Location, but not the final one. This can fix the narrative issue with William waiting like 20 years to go and get the animatronics for his experiments. But then, after entering Scoop Mike, William noticed the MCI were inside Mike and goes to get his spring Bonnie suit to try and control the children or to protect himself. But when he goes there, he gets spring locked. That way, when Mike comes to, William is missing and he has to look for him. I actually might start believing this since it fixes a lot of issues with the timeline for me, but I'm not sure. So guys, what do you think? Did I solve Sister Location's timeline placement, or am I wrong and it happens before FNAF 2 or after FNAF 3? Let me know in the comments, and while you're down there, make sure to subscribe.
Guys, thank you for staying along this video with me. If you want to subscribe, I appreciate that. Hit that like button for me and stay safe, please. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out.